Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions. We're going to wrap up this week's theme of spectacular endings with some theme thoughts, but I want to do this a little differently because I don't really think I have much to add on the idea of what makes a song spectacular, at least in an ending. What makes an ending spectacular? That's, should I do another take? No, let's roll with it. What makes an ending spectacular? I think we all sort of know that inherently, whether we can vocalize it or not. We just listen to something, we're like, yeah, that was a spectacle. And it's going to be subjective too. What's fantastic for one person might not be fantastic for another. I think a very clear example is Deliverance by Opeth. Is that what the song was called? When I was like, this ending is ridiculous. And everyone else was like, this is the best ending I've ever heard. I don't know why you don't get it. And I'm like, okay, so, we have tastes in things. That's a very clear example. Not every ending is the same for everyone. I think I was just as perplexed that people enjoyed the end of that track as I think people were perplexed by me not getting it and not really liking it. So, I don't really think there's much of a quantitative conversation to be had here. But I bring up this band a lot, the Human Abstract. They're very formative for me in a lot of ways, in the way that I go about crafting music, especially when I try to make stuff on the heavier side. And this song in particular has been close to me for almost 2 decades now, from a writing standpoint and from a lyrical one. This song means a lot to me. It also happens to have a massive ending that I absolutely love for a lot of reasons. I was contemplating just playing the end, as in the past I have only played the snippets of songs that have applied to what we were talking about. But a spectacular ending needs the context. You need to hear the contrast from what came before it to feel the spectacle. But also, I just wanted to have a reason to wax poetically about this. So, we're just going to do a full analysis on the Human Abstract's Polaris from their 2006 album, Nocturne. What I find really interesting about this is when I bring up the Human Abstract to people, there's like 2 things that come to mind. Crossing the Rubicon, their first single that really put them on the map, and Vela, Together We Await the Storm, which was their second single and what I think most people know them for. And Spotify kind of backs this up. Crossing the Rubicon has 950,000 listens, and Vela has 2.1 million. That's definitely their most popular song. Everything else sort of moves between 2 to 4,000. The title track is 436,000. 2 to 400,000. The title track is 436,000. Some of my favorite tracks only have 200, 210, 226. Polaris, though, broke the million. I don't think this was a single, and no one I've talked to who knows who the band is has heard this song. So maybe one person just oh wait, has that been me? I was going to say maybe one person really loves this song and it's just played it so many more times than everything else. But yeah, maybe that's me. This is the song that I play for people when I want to show them who the Human Abstract is. Oh wait, I haven't had Spotify. That could have been me. I just got Spotify this last year. Oh man. Okay, well, with that said, let's dive into this. I don't need to see what's going on, but let's see what's going on. Let's see what the Human Abstract is bringing to the table with Polaris. Gotta have those pitch harmonics. They were so popular at the time. Fresh not change, nothing to say. Take pleasure in burning all the mind. Very melodic riffage. harmonies coming from both guitars. So much contrast in sounds, but also just a really nice flow. Every section has just moved into the next very naturally. Using the rhythmic pattern of the last section to act as a transition back into the verse. Interesting too to have this with the lyrics pulled up and notice how often a sentence will change sections in the middle of a sentence, so the story continues over, which really helps its flow as well. Once again, utilizing the rhythmic ideas to move into this next section. Still working with the same rhythmic pattern. The drumming. I really love that moment too, shifting from the open tones to give us the pedal note into a fully moving, evolving sounds without really ditching much of the composition. Just a really nice transition there. Very big, epic sounds. This guitar over here counterpoint to the vocals. We're going to introduce another layer of counterpoint soon. Shift to a new harmonic property, very uplifting and epic. Yeah, just You know, when I talk about songs having everything I want in them, this definitely sits at the top of my list. It's contrasty. There is a lot of diversity in sound, in execution, in harmony, but everything works together to create something of a positive combination of all of these different sounds. There's diversity in the feeling of the track, whether it's more of that metal aggressiveness or the uplifting energy at the end, or sort of the calm introspection of the acoustic guitar section. There's always something in here that is exploring new ground that lends itself into the story, which we'll get into when we talk about the lyrics in a second. All of the contrast in it amplifies the main core of the song, which is primarily about change. And I think the song having so many sections that don't just, to pick an extreme example, the one that I always go to is Ant to the Sky, Between the Buried and Me. Just so many disparate sections smashed together. This has a lot of sections to it too, but they all metamorphosize into each other. They all, I know that's the, they all metamorph, they all morph into each other. We're just gonna say um, it's just a smooth movement, whether it's the retaining of a rhythmic idea or a riff or retaining a melody, or even in some cases, like I mentioned, where the vocalist just continues their sentence into the next section. There's always some sort of tie to the past. Very few of these sections exist in a vacuum where I could say this is distinctly this new section has no ties to anything else. Everything is connected to what came before it. And this ties directly into the lyrical themes of change. I love that. Um, there's also just all of the melodies, whether it is a guitar melody, counterpoint, the vocal melody, dual vocal melodies, like when we have the clean and then the harshes and the call and response on those. Those are also going on where there's some guitar stuff. This is something that I love about this whole genre of music. I don't know, I think this is progressive metalcore, but we also see this in early Between the Buried and Me. Um, we see this a lot in what becomes of progressive post-hardcore and swancore, which is technically progressive post-hardcore. It's just a lot of dual guitar work, playing melodies, counterpoint against each other, while there's also a vocal melody going on, just like three melodies all happening in ways that are congruent, though. Things that push each other and elevate them rather than clash, because we do hear clashing, dissonant counterpoint in a lot of metal genres too, especially once you get more into the experimental or avant-garde, or even a lot of black metal can push in this direction too. Um, I appreciate the concept on an intellectual level, but sonically the dissonance tends to work against me. And with bands like Human Abstract, it's done in a way that is uh, positive. Not it's good versus bad, but that it pushes towards positive harmony or consonance rather than negative harmony. And the rhythmic elements tend to work towards each other to create complex but listenable polyrhythmic ideas, less or more so than less palatable, less understandable noisy rhythms. Again, noise feels a little too negative, but I think it's an accurate descriptor of what happens when a lot of sounds come together in ways that's difficult to parse. Um, and I don't think it's that far of a stretch to see how I would have eventually landed enjoying Hail the Sun, especially with some of the dual guitar lines plus the vocals that we hear so often in a track like this. Hail the Sun sort of picks up on that and runs with it in a different direction for sure, but the blueprint's the same. I also love all the bass work in here. The bass just has some really phenomenal lines across this whole album. Very rarely are they playing something that somebody else is playing. Very rarely are they doing pedal tone or root note work. The bassist is consistently having its own counter melody in a lot of ways. And the bassist, at least at this time, because this bassist was not present in either of the other two albums, just some gnarly two-handed tapping stuff in some of these tracks. It's just absolutely bonkers stuff. I always looked up to him when I was playing bass in college. I was in a band. Maybe I think I've been teasing finding some footage for that. I probably should just look on some old hard drives and see if I have some one of these days. I guess that itself is still a tease, but let me make a note for this. Ooh, find old. All right, that's on my to-do list. Less of a tease now, more concrete. But yeah, one of the bases, I always tried to learn his parts, what few things I could find for it, because everybody, in the amateur tabbing community, they were all focusing on AJ. Everyone wanted to play the guitar stuff for this, you know. Um, and I wanted to learn the bass stuff, and they were kind of far and few between what I could find. But what I did find, man, I tried to practice. Always a bit above my skill level, but yeah, the bass work in this whole album is just phenomenal. And I pointed it out at one time, but you can hear it throughout all of this track as well as the entirety of the album, is just how melodic the drumming is. There is generally a rhythm, a groove found in the accent points that create the metronome, the backbone to the song. But outside of that, there's so much ornamentation and melodic elements to the drumming. It's just everything comes together so well. Now, the flow of the song moves from elements of aggression into the introspection that we have in the bridge with the acoustic guitars. That pushes forward into something that's a bit more of a withheld or laid back guitar solo that sits underneath the vocals, that is sort of unsure of itself harmonically and production wise. It's stuffed into the mix, and then that takes us, after the vocalist has said their last line, into our outro guitar solo, which is very uplifting and triumphant, has an epic side to it. Basically, everything from the acoustic guitar point on, the final 70, 80 seconds of the track, is to me the spectacular ending. Everything before that is a verse, chorus in a typical metalcore fashion with a little bit of classical flourish thrown on top of it to give it that progressive element. This spectacular ending to me, though, is a rise from introspection to being unsure of yourself to making the change and becoming who you're supposed to be. It is a roller coaster of just constantly going up. There's no dips, there's no nothing of that. It's just a constant ride upwards, and a push towards greatness, a push towards perfection of your ultimate form. And the music just goes on such a roller coaster ride of that, with the increasing volume, increasing complexity, increasing layers. We have the guitar counterpoint under the vocals, and then a center guitar, center left guitar, that provides another counterpoint on top of all of that, and is just taking us to the final guitar solo, which is just so perfectly paced. There's a little bit of shred in there, but most of it is focused on more of a melodic style of delivering a guitar solo, focusing on key notes and really leaning into the harmonic qualities instead of the speed of it all. The speed is done for flourish, to add on to what's already there rather than to dominate what's already there. And I don't know, I just, if I could get goosebumps from music, this would probably be it. This would probably be one of the big moments for me. And maybe I did the first time I heard it. Diminishing returns, unfortunately, after 100,000 plays on this, it kind of loses some of its energy. But yeah, it's everything I want in a song, and it fits the theme of spectacular endings. But even if it wasn't musically for me, which it absolutely is, there's still the lyrical side of things. I'm going to go over some of the lines here that really stand out to me. And like I said, the song is about change. The opening verse leans into this very strongly. Face the change. I'm not ashamed to say I take pleasure in burning all of my epitaphs. So, everything about who I was, I have no problem forgetting about that entirely. My history is something that happened. I'm not going to go back to it. I'm not going to look, I'm not going to focus on it. I changed from that. I've made mistakes. I've made right decisions. I'm going to learn from my past, but it's not something I'm going to focus on. He says, I search with outstretched arms, a torch to hold on to, turning the sands of time into glass. Love that. Take something that people normally look at negatively, the sands of time, they're drowning us. We're constantly watching the grains tick away. I'm going to turn that into glass. I'm going to turn that into something nice, useful, right? And I'm going to do that by searching for truths. And I love how it's, I search with outstretched arms for a torch to hold on to. I'm looking for a light, basically. And through fire, I can transform sand to glass. The chorus says, push through here and beyond, endure every trial, break in from the outside, and go back to the struggle to find strength in a starting over. I really love that line. Find strength in starting over. It isn't about a fear of the unknown. It's not about being worried about sunk costs. I've put so much time into this other stuff. I should stick with. No, no. There is positives to starting over. It's a struggle for sure, but there can be good from starting over, from ditching something that's not working. Find change worth changing for. He says, I vowed not to spend my life comforted by enclosure. It's better to cry out in pain than be uninvolved, silent, and lame to the life that beckons us. There is greatness for all of us, a call to action. It's easy to ignore it though, because life can be comfortable if you ignore it. But you shouldn't. You should not spend your life comforted by enclosure. It's better to try and find the pain and struggle in being better than what you are, to make sure that you're in a better place tomorrow than you were today. Don't stagnate, don't walk backwards. Always take steps forward regardless of what the hurdles are in that. The ending of the song, the bit that comes after the classical guitar section, says, because you never hold on to the spoils you've won. All of your triumphs are in vain if you can't embrace a change. All the paths I've been down, I still have never found something lasting through the years, except for all of these worthless fears that mean nothing. Compare your life and your loves to the vastness of the endless stars above. Oh, yeah. And he's screaming at this point too. There's a nice compression to his clean. He's not doing a harsh vocal like we heard in the chorus. Um, there's just an intensity to it, a passion to this line. You need to keep pushing forward. The little things in your life that you think are there's can be taken in a negative way, right? Because there's a it can be viewed from a nihilistic angle. Because he does say compare everything in your life to the vastness of the stars above. But I think it's about understanding about the vastness of everything. It isn't just saying don't care about anything because you're so small. But it's saying that if there's things that you find that you're latched onto that don't allow you to take that next step, to grow, to expand who you are, to further your horizons, remember how small those things are in the bigger picture. He just says, look at the big thing. Remember, you only have one shot at this life. Sometimes some things helps to have that comfort, but don't let the comfort tie you down. You know, you can have loves, you can have passion, you can have people and projects and things in your life that bring you happiness. But don't let them hold you down too. And if you're scared to let them go, just remember how big the universe is. There's a lot of room for you to grow, and you're still at the smallest point. It is a song to me that has helped me make some really big dives, some really big leaps of faith. In fact, starting this YouTube channel was kind of a big one. Going full time with it was another one. When I was making these decisions, this song was in my mind, particularly this final verse. The music, the soaring guitar work that comes after it, the passion in his vocals, the counterpoint in the second guitar and the bass, the melody in the drums. I owe a lot to human action. I've made mistakes because I've decided to make some big leaps too. I'm not saying that everything I've done, all the positives of, I attribute that to this track, but there have been some big changes that have taken me good places, and I've had struggle for sure, but it's better to cry out in pain than to ignore a call to something larger. You need to be able to embrace change, to always take one more step forward. And so, like I said, for almost 2 decades now, I've found this album pretty close to its release. I don't know if it was exactly in '06, but it was probably around that time. I'm trying to remember if I heard this in. Oh, actually, yeah. It would have been '06 because I was still in high school. And I remember that because I was jamming out with this to my buddy who ended up going. I don't think he went out of state, but he did go out of city, and we didn't hang out for a bit. So yeah, I think this was '06. I found this the year it came out. So yeah, so in 2026, it'll be 2 decades that this song has been inspiring me to be better every day, to take chances, to evolve, to be better tomorrow than I am today. And even just reading these last lines here started to get me worked up. It is just I feel such an attachment to this. And if you don't, that's fine. There's been a lot of songs that I'm like, okay, I get it, but I'm not emotional over it. And everyone in the comments is like, how can you be so stoic with this beautiful stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. But this to me is easily one of my top 3 songs. It's something I will never forget. On my deathbed, I will probably think of these lyrics, of that guitar solo, of the spectacular ending, and get ready to take the next step. Those are my thoughts. Human Abstract's Polaris, some of my theme thoughts for the week, spectacular endings in general. Let me know what you thought of this track. Have you heard it before? Did it impact you like it did me? I don't know. Are you going to listen to it again? Put all that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, there's a link for Linktree. If you click it, it takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps up today. We do have an album review tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC. And we have a live stream tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. EST, 4 p.m. UTC. Is that right? 5 hours? Yeah, just come and hang out. It's a 2-hour jam, and we just listen to music, chit chat, get off topic, ramble about stuff. And it's just a nice little hangout, chill way to spend some of your Sunday. All right, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.